Section 63 of Buddenbrooks by Thomas Mann, translated by Helen Tracy Lowe Porter. This Librivox recording is in the public domain. Read by Bruce Perry. Part 6, Chapter 11. Tony lost no time. She went resolutely about her affair. In the hope of quieting her, of bringing her slowly to a different frame of mind, the consul said but little. He asked only one thing, that she should be very quiet and stop entirely in the house, and Erica as well. Perhaps it would blow over. The town did not need to know. The family Thursday afternoon was put off on some pretext. But on the very next day she wrote to Dr. Giesecke and summoned him to Meng Street. She received him alone in the middle corridor room on the first floor, where a fire was laid, and she had arranged a heavy table with ink and writing materials and a quantity of foolscap paper from the office. They sat down in 2 easy chairs. "Dr. Giesecke," said Tony. She folded her arms, flung back her head, and looked at the ceiling while she spoke. "You are a man of experience, both professionally and personally. I can speak openly with you." And thereupon she revealed to him the whole story about Babette and what had happened in her sleeping chamber. Dr. Giesecke regretted being obliged to explain to her that neither the affair on the stairs nor the insult she had undoubtedly received, the precise nature of which she hesitated to divulge, was sufficient ground for a divorce. "Very good," she said. "Thank you." And then, at her request, he gave an exposition of the existing legal grounds for divorce, and an even longer discourse after it, which had for its subject matter the law touching dowry rights. She listened with open mind and strained attention, and then, with cordial thanks, dismissed Dr. Giesecke for the time being. She went downstairs and demanded audience of her brother in his private office. "Thomas," she said, "please write to the man at once. I do not like to mention his name. As far as the money goes, I am perfectly informed on that subject. Let him speak. Me he shall never see again, whatever he decides. If he agrees to a divorce, we will ask him to give an accounting and restore my dose. If he refuses, we need not be discouraged. For, as you probably know, Permaneder's right to my dose is, legally speaking, a property right. We grant that. But on the other hand, thank goodness, I have certain material rights on my side." The consul walked up and down with his hands behind his back, his shoulders twitching nervously. Tony's face, as she uttered the word dose, was too unutterably self-satisfied. He had no time. Heaven knew he had no time. Let her have patience and wait and bethink herself 100 times. His nearest duty was a journey to Hamburg. Indeed, he must go the very next day, for the purpose of a personal interview with Christian. Christian had written for help, for money which would have to come out of the Frau Consul's inheritance. His business was in frightful condition. He was in constant difficulties. Yet he seemed to amuse himself royally and went everywhere, to theatres, restaurants, and concert halls. To judge from the debts now coming to light, which he had been able to pile up on the credit of his family name, he had been living far, far beyond his means, and they knew in Meng Street and at the club, yes, the whole town knew, who was responsible. It was a certain female, a certain Aline Poufogel, who lived alone with her 2 pretty children. Christian was not the only Hamburg businessman who possessed her favors and spent money on her. In short, Tony's intentions in the matter of her divorce were not the only dark spot in the consul's sky, and the journey to Hamburg was pressing. Besides, it was altogether likely that they would hear from Herr Permaneder. The consul went to Hamburg, and came back angry and depressed. No word had come from Munich, and he felt obliged to take the first step. He wrote rather coldly, with curt condescension, to this effect: Antonia, during her life with Permenator, had been subjected to great disappointments that would not be denied. Without going into detail, it was evident that she could never find happiness in this marriage. Her wish that it should be dissolved must be justified to the mind of any reasonable person, and her determination not to return to Munich was entirely unshakable. And he put the question as to what were Herr Permenator's feelings, in view of the facts which he had just stated. There were more days of suspense, and then came Herr Permenator's reply. He answered as no one had expected him to answer, not Dr. Giesecke, nor the Frau Consul, nor Thomas, nor Antonia herself. He agreed, quite simply, to a divorce. He wrote that he deeply regretted what had happened, but that he respected Antonia's wishes, as he saw that he and she had never hit it off. If it were true that she had suffered during those years through him, he begged her to forget and forgive. As he would probably never see her and Erica again, he sent them both his hearty good wishes for all happiness on this earth, and he signed himself Alois Permenator. In a postscript, he offered to make immediate restitution of the dowry. He had enough without it to lead a life free from care. He did not require to have notice given, for business there was none to wind up. The house belonged to him, and the money was ready any time. Tony felt a slight twinge of shame, and was almost inclined, for the first time, to admit that Herr Permenator's indifference to money matters might have something good about it. Now it was Dr. Giesecke's turn again. He communicated with the husband, and a plea of mutual incompatibility was set up as ground for the divorce. The hearing began. Tony's second divorce case. She talked about it night and day, and the consul lost his temper several times. Tony was in no state to share his feelings. She was entirely taken up with words like tangibilities, improvabilities, accessions, productivity, dowry rights, and the like, which she used in season and out of season with marvelous fluency, her shoulders slightly raised. One point in Dr. Giesecke's long disquisitions had made a great impression on her. It had to do with treasure found in any piece of property that had constituted part of a dowry, which was to be regarded as a component part of the dowry, to be liquidated if the marriage came to an end. About this treasure, which was of course non-existent, she talked to every soul she knew, Ida Jungmann, Uncle Eustace, poor Clotilde, the Broad Street Buddenbrooks, and they, when they heard how matters stood, just folded their hands in their laps and looked at each other in speechless joy that this satisfaction, too, had been vouchsafed them. Teresa Weichbrot was told of it. Erica had gone to stay at the pension again, and Madame Kettelson, too, though this last, for more than one reason, understood not a single word. Then came the day when the divorce was pronounced. When the last formalities were gone through, and Tony asked Thomas for the family papers, and set down this last event with her own hand. Yes, it was done. All that remained was to get used to it. She did it gallantly. She bore with unscathed dignity the tiny dagger thrusts of the ladies from Broad Street. She met the Hagenstroms and Muhlendorfs on the street, and looked with chilling indifference straight over their heads, and she quite gave up going into society. the more easily that it had for some years past forsaken her mother's house for her brother's. She had her own immediate family, the Frau Consul, Tom, and Gerda. She had Ida Jungmann and her motherly friend Sesame Weichbrot, and she had Erika, upon whose future she probably built her own last secret hopes, and upon whose aristocratic upbringing she expended much care and thought. Thus she lived, and thus time went on. Later, in some way that was never quite clear, there came to certain members of the family knowledge of that word, the desperate word which had escaped from Herr Perminator on that never-to-be-forgotten night. What was it, then, that he had said? "Go to the devil, you filthy, sprat-eating slut!" And thus Tony Buddenbrooks' second marriage came to an end. End of section 63.